Welcome back, everyone. This is Dave from the Core Productions Deep Dive TV podcast with my co-host Stacie here to talk about Under the Dome, Season 1, Episode 13, titled Curtains. This will be the season finale of Season 1.
Again.
So that will
Finally again.
Yes. So that means it'll be curtains on our discussion of Season 1.
Or maybe we should go back to the beginning.
I would like to avoid doing that. I think I've had all that I could take of analyzing Season 1 for sure. All right, so the episode's description reads as follows. As Barbie's fate is sealed by Big Jim, the dome blackens, and the identity of the monarch is revealed. The episode was written by Scott Gold. This is his last of 2 efforts on the series, so that's curtains on his career as a Under the Dome writer. I swear I will not continue to use that joke as we go along. But this is based on a book by Stephen King. The episode was directed by our friend Jack Bender, who, do you think we could get him as to talk to us at some point?
I do not think we can get Jack Bender.
No.
But I applaud
my ambition.
Your ambition, yes. I mean, never say never. We know people who know people who know people. We know people who know Jack Bender.
Right.
But he's pretty big, Dave.
Yes, I know. But it'd be great if we could.
I don't know. Tweet it out. Let's see what happens.
All right. Before we go any further, I'll tell you a couple things. One, this is not a sport-free podcast, so if you haven't watched the episode, I highly recommend you go check it out, and then come back and give us a listen. Secondly, if you're listening with the platforms of this podcast is now available on, please follow. And feel free to check out our YouTube channel, Core Productions, where digital content can be discovered both Under the Dome related and otherwise. If you're already on my YouTube channel, please like, share, and comment, and subscribe to our channel. All right. So, Stacie, your thoughts on the season finale of Under the Dome, Season 1.
I don't hate it. It's still like if you still come at it from that perspective of you don't know what happens next, you don't know what the egg is, you don't know how ridiculous Season 2 is going to turn so quickly, it still feels like, oh, I'm into this and I'm excited and I want to know what happens next. I just want something different to happen next. That's all.
So, like we've said several times, taken in a vacuum, this episode is perfectly fine. Flawed, sure. Season 1 overall, flawed, sure. But there's plenty of promise here.
Yeah.
There's plenty of good places they could have gone. Plenty of good things that they could have done. They just don't do it, and I know they're not going to do it.
Yeah.
I don't have any huge problems with this episode. I do most of my complaints center around, and it's not. I'm not going to talk about this very much, but Linda again. Junior is kind of all over the place.
Junior's all over the place,
but it makes sense. Yes,
yeah.
Yes.
He is having an internal struggle between the different forces at play here. His character actually really fits here better than anywhere else I think we've seen him.
Yeah, and again, the problem with it is where they're going to take Junior as a character in the second season. Like, his dilemmas and his constantly switching sides make sense for the character here. What they do with his character, even starting episode 1, does not so much make sense. It's a complete 180. If you watch this episode and the season premiere back to back, specifically for Junior's character, it's an extremely jarring experience. But we'll definitely, in a couple weeks when we get to season 2, finally have discussions on that.
Yeah.
But as far as this episode is fine. There's there's a lot of good stuff here.
I think
I remember really enjoying it the first time I watched it. Really enjoying it the second time I revisited it.
Okay.
And watching it now, even with the other stuff going, that I know is coming, it's still an enjoyable watch.
It is. I feel like the Monarch stuff is kind of weird and misplaced. If anything in this episode feels out of place.
I don't remember what they even do with that going
I don't
forward.
think they do much with it.
Right, yeah.
Honestly.
Right.
Like, I think, people listen to Julia a little bit.
Right.
That's all of it.
Right.
I don't feel like I remember what does that mean.
Right.
What was the point of the beings choosing Julia?
Right.
I don't think that becomes anything. Maybe it does. Maybe I'm wrong.
Right.
It's been a while since I've moved past season 1, so I don't have the best memories of it.
Right. All right. So,
I feel like that's like the weirdest part of this.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoyed the whole thing with the mini dome and the big dome, and there's these things happening between both of them, and that's cool, but then it's also really weird that we don't deal with, well, why? What the frick does that mean?
Right.
And then we just kind of destroy the mini dome at the end of this, and okay, why? Now what? It feels like there's just so many things that don't amount to anything.
I think that's the big problem with the series in general, is the fact that basically we have a lot of setup for things that don't matter going forward.
Yeah.
We just drop these things, whereas we should have continued them. Like, we walk back Jim's character from being the total tyrant that he is towards the end of this season into something completely different. Like, oh, well, now he's some kind of messiah to the dome or something like that. At least that's how Jim views it. But suddenly he's turned back into the good guy. Junior's character is just completely changed. A lot of the things that happen in season 1 are just not brought forward.
Yeah.
And they should have been. And even in season 1, like Carter, he was set up as an antagonist. They did nothing with him.
And then we never see him again.
Right. He's just shot in the knee and it's done.
By the time we get to the end of the episode, I do want to shout out some of the actors that we met and lost in season 1 that are not continuing into season 2, because there's a lot of them.
Okay.
And they're not all dead, which is the dead ones, that makes sense.
Right.
The ones that are still alive does make zero sense that we never see them again.
Right.
So,
yeah.
But I'm going to save that till kind of the end.
All right.
When, we just talk about people a lot at the end. I'll have a lot of them today.
All right, so we diving in?
Yeah, let's dive in.
All right, so the episode begins with the kids. Caroline and Linda are at the small dome in Ben's house. They try to convince Linda that this is a good thing, that Linda needs to be on their side. Meanwhile, Jim is pissed at Barbie for pleading not guilty. As they re-enter the station, Jim ends up hitting him in the stomach. Barbie is convinced that Julia knowing the truth will help him if she tells the truth to anyone who is willing to listen. Jim claims he already told the truth, that Barbie's responsible for all these murders, and that is the truth. Barbie says, so basically he says that Barbie entered his plea, and now he will get his justice, but there will be no trial, as Jim promised at several points during this little arc. And, of course, Linda's not going to say a damn thing about that, but that's another thing. I mean, even if she argued and lost, I'd be okay with it, but she never even makes the argument.
I feel like he sends her on a wild egg chase.
Yeah.
And she kind of loses sight of what Jim's doing, I think, by the time things get really crazy.
But she is in the crowd at the end of this episode, so she could object.
But when did she get there?
I don't know, but she's...
Because remember, she was, passed out on the floor for a good part of this episode.
I mean, fair enough. But, yeah, I mean, she is in the crowd watching as Barbie is about to be hung and says absolutely nothing about this. She's perfectly okay with it. I mean, maybe she's not, but she's not, strong enough to raise an objection. But anyway, so Junior's at the dome yelling for answers and gets nothing from the dome.
He wants to know why the dome wants him to kill his father. So he's acknowledging the vision that they saw meant you're supposed to kill him.
Right. Julia wants to get help, basically exonerate Barbie, and she will die trying. Angie argues against this, but eventually Angie decides to help. The mini dome has the butterfly crashing into it and making it start to go black, which is starting to be reflected in the real world as well. Barbie says he can take Jim down with him. Jim says he can just shoot him in the head and be done with it. But Barbie says he won't do that because there's no audience. And Barbie continues to argue, but they start to notice that things start to go dark. The butterfly seemingly dies. The big dome goes completely dark. And Barbie keeps talking, but I just basically said that. So the whole town notices that that basically they're going into darkness, and then we have our credits. The kids are all marveling at the dome going dark. Joe uses this to try to convince Linda to be on their side, but it doesn't work. She calls in all available units, which is just Junior.
Yeah, who are these available units?
Right, yeah, basically.
Multiple times throughout this episode, they'll be like, oh, the whole force. What's the force? There is no force.
Yeah, there's Linda, Junior, and basically a bunch of stragglers.
And then,
volunteers.
like Jim's thugs.
Right, basically. So Linda impounds the egg and gets Jim on the horn, despite the fact that everybody is trying to argue against this. It starts squealing, and they basically end up tricking Linda into touching the dome, which was kind of clever.
Yeah, so she's like, make it stop. And they're like, we don't know how to make it stop. And then I think it was Joe?
Joe, yeah.
Who starts the lie. He's like, well, actually, we kind of do. Remember when we touched it?
Yeah.
And Linda's like, nobody's touching this egg but me. It's police property. Which, of course, is what they wanted her to do. Because we know if you're not one of the four hands and you touch the egg, well, I guess one of the four hands or the monarch, because Julia's touched the egg. What happened to Dodie is she got a big shock and went boom.
Mm-hmm.
So they're hoping that's what's going to happen. And, of course, it does.
So, beyond the fact that she's basically, once again, completely siding with Jim here, which annoys the crap out of me, she's also annoying the crap out of me for being just completely stupid and gullible in this scene. I don't think she should have fallen for what Joe did. But also this whole, I'm impounding this thing and I'm not going to listen to anybody thing is really annoying.
She's trying to, be assertive and to take leadership.
Which she should be trying to do against Jim, which she's not going to do. But anyway. So Junior gets there. He's pissed at Angie for basically taking Barbie's side, and they try to tell him that Barbie saved her and that things are happening, and for now, Junior is swayed to the side of helping them out. Julia and Angie get Barbie out of the cell, and then we see Jim.
Yeah, so they go to the station.
Yeah.
This was weird for me. Angie's just like, I'm gonna go get the keys.
Right.
And she goes and gets the keys. First of all, why are the keys just sitting at the station? And why does she even know where they are?
Right.
Like, of all the places she works, this isn't one of them.
Mm-hmm.
And she's just like, let me get the keys to open the jail cell. And then they do so.
Maybe they're just on the wall.
But why?
Obvious. I don't know, because Linda's bad at her job. I don't know. So Jim ends up going to Ben's residence to find Linda unconscious. She ends up waking up and telling them that they need to find it. She doesn't have any of the memory problems that Dodie had, which is interesting.
That is interesting. I didn't catch that.
Right. Meanwhile, the kids have it in the truck. Junior basically has a way to get a message to Angie saying that he basically has a police radio that he knows Angie has as well because Barbie gave it to her.
Yeah, he's being a little useful. He has some ideas here. Here's my question in this scene. We've got the three hands. They got the egg. Where did Ben and Carolyn go?
That is interesting.
We know they left Ben's house.
Right.
They just went to get ice cream.
Maybe.
Where are they at? We ditched them.
I don't even remember seeing Caroline for the rest of the
episode. I don't think we see either of them again in this episode.
Yeah, so they just decide to...
They're like, well, we're just going to go have fun saving the world.
Yeah.
Peace out. Carolyn's not going to, insist on being a part of this.
Right,
Being the grown-up in the room.
Mm-hmm.
She's just going to be like, okay, come home by midnight.
And you would think that Ben would also be interested in being a part of this.
I mean, right. They totally ditched him just because he's not one of the four hands.
Right.
Has he ever tried touching the dome? Do they know for a fact that he's not part of it? They just exclude him.
I know, it's
entirely.
sad.
They never ever once considered he might be part of it.
Well, I like Ben, so me and Ben can be friends. But yeah, so basically Joe is like, okay, so what message are you going to send that Angie is going to understand, but Jim and Linda and anybody else listening in isn't going to?
Right.
And then... so they don't. We cut away from that scene without answering that question, and we go to Julia and Angie trying to sneak Barbie out, but they are intercepted by an angry Phil. Why is Phil still hanging out at the police
Phil's
station?
at the police station along with Thug number 3,
right. Yeah.
who we met last week.
Yeah.
This time he's listed as volunteer.
Oh, okay.
He was Thug number 3 last week. Now he's volunteer. I guess he's volunteer police.
Is that a promotion from Thug to volunteer?
Played by Christopher Johnson. Again, we met him last week. These are his only 2 episodes. They're just in the police station, in the room where Angie would have just got the keys.
Right.
Where were they a minute ago?
Right.
And why are they there now?
Right. So Barbie ends up beating up Phil with his hands literally tied behind his back. And the other dude they were just talking about gets hit by a fire extinguisher thanks to Angie. Joe ends up calling Angie with a coded message to meet them someplace where neither Linda or Jim should know.
And that is specifically the place where they broke Mom's old mirror, which we'll soon learn is the cement factory. Why were they in the cement factory with their mom's mirror?
I don't know.
What is that story?
Yeah. Let's
take Mom's mirror to the cement factory.
I don't understand what the purpose of that would be exactly. But anyway.
But it works because nobody knows what they're talking about. But Angie does.
So Phil calls Linda and knows that Julia helped Barbie escape. The 4 hands end up touching the mini dome. The dome ends up breaking. The butterfly comes to life, but the darkness does not subside. It floats around Barbie, which seems to confirm to Joe that he is in fact the monarch. But this is actually a fake out, as it turns out. Jim happens upon the people going to the church. He talks to Andrea, who thinks this is going to be the end, like in Revelations. Jim ends up going inside to address the crowd and tries to convince them that things will be fine. And he's challenged by the crowd, who's worrying about starving to death or freezing to death.
Yeah, so we have a farmer.
Yeah.
He's saying they're going to starve to death because without sun, their crops can't grow. He's played by Kevin Patrick Murphy. He was in one episode of Mr. Mercedes, 2 episodes of The Walking Dead, and an episode of Stranger Things. And then we have a mother who's like, well, we don't have to worry about starving to death because we're going to freeze to death first with no sun.
Right.
And she's played by Zuri Adele, who I'm very familiar with. She plays Malika on Good Trouble. She's in all 88 episodes of that series. And it was so funny to see somebody who now I recognize and know very well in this little one-line role from something I've seen multiple times but never had recognized her in that before.
That's the beauty of doing this kind of thing.
Yeah, going the retrospective, you know, of who people become in their careers.
Jim gives an impassioned speech, and that seems to convince the crowd, saying things are about to change. They're going to get back to law and order, that they're going to conquer evil, which is, of course, Jim at this point. Junior, meanwhile, refuses to believe that Barbie is the monarch. The egg starts causing everything to shake. Everyone basically starts to run, but Julia grabs the egg, and everything stops, signifying that Julia is, in fact, the monarch and not Barbie.
And then the butterfly lands on the egg in Julia's hands, and Barbie's like, yes, she's your monarch.
Right.
Which, again, doesn't ever mean anything, I don't think, after this.
Well, we'll see, but I'm pretty sure you're right. Jim and Phil talk. Jim wants to build a gallows to hang Barbie with. Phil initially is like, are you serious about this? And it seems like he might be objecting to this.
He almost objected.
Right.
But then he's like, oh, for Dodie. Because he remembered, Barbie killed Dodie.
All right, so I'm kind of curious. Okay, fine, Linda's not going to say anything.
Linda's unconscious right now.
I understand that, but eventually she's going to get wind of this, and she's going to have nothing to say about that. But beyond that, nobody else in this town is going to object to this?
Right.
I mean,
well, I guess they're all worried about the sky falling right now. They're all, at the church thinking it's the end of days. So I guess they're not really concerned about this one dude over there not getting a trial because they literally think they're about to die.
Okay, fair enough. At the same time, this is kind of a depressing statement because someone says that it's been 2 weeks. So we've literally gone, just 2 weeks of being trapped in a dome.
Yeah.
And we've literally gone to the point where we're going to hang people in the gallows.
Yeah. I think it's okay right now that the gallows are being built and nobody notices, but I think by the final scene when the whole crowd gathers to watch it, then it's a problem.
Yeah. I mean, that's more my point. Is even then, there's nobody who's going to be against that. It should be Linda. She is an authority figure within the town. She's argued for the Constitution. She's argued for respecting people's property, and so on and so forth. Fairness of law. She should be against this.
Of course.
And she never says a damn word about it. And that's what that irritates me.
It also, it goes to show, the Jim, he has this control over people. People see him as this leader and this important person, and everybody in the town just kind of bought into his act. Do you know who would have opposed him is Ollie, but Ollie's dead.
Yeah.
Ollie would have stood up against him, I bet.
Well, yeah, I mean, at this point, he has become a tyrant, a dictator. He's basically Hitler or Mussolini or any of those other dictators that you could probably name today, someone who's a dictator. That's who Jim is right now.
Yeah.
He's a charismatic figure who's basically exploited the people's fears to take power and do crappy things with it.
Yeah.
And that's something they should have continued throughout the series, but they don't.
Okay, so here's how he takes care of Linda, so she's doesn't have her nose in this. So after she woke up, he sends her to look for the egg. He says, we gotta find the egg. So she's busy literally on a wild egg hunt, looking for the egg. And she's looking at the McAllister barn.
Yes.
And so she's going to spend most of the rest of this just kind of wandering around looking for the kids.
Right. Basically she's at Joe's barn. She's looking at the constellations. She finds something as she's talking to Jim that says, "The pink stars are falling in line," which is a phrase that Jim recognizes, and it seems to startle him, and he says to meet her at his house. Julia is asked about what they're supposed to do next. Junior says it's time to take the egg to the real authorities.
Meaning his dad.
Yeah, he's flipping sides once again. Barbie tries to tell him the truth, basically says, "Hey, your dad is responsible for all these murders."
Yeah, he says, "I literally watched Jim execute Maxine."
I'm going to point out that Barbie says all this here because it's going to be important to something that happens in the season premiere. I'm going to bring you back to this moment where basically Barbie is telling Junior at this moment that his dad is responsible for all these murders.
I mean, Junior doesn't believe him.
Of course not. And it's fine for this episode. I do have problems with when we get into the season premiere. But he doesn't want to hear it. He points the gun at Julia, says that she does nothing but lie, and points out how she got here in the first place because he knows that story.
Right, that she lied at her Chicago job, and that's why she's here.
It's a little weird because Junior has, up to this point, demonstrated some kind of affection for Julia and
I
trust.
like that this is a callback to that connection they had previously where she did open up and tell him this story that she supposedly never told anyone else.
Right.
And he throws it in her face.
Yeah.
It is like, yeah, you're a liar. So you're lying right now about my dad.
I mean, he's angry, he's confused, he doesn't want to believe these things about his dad.
Right.
But
we also already know in this episode, he asks the dome, "Why do you want me to kill my dad?"
Right.
So he's acknowledging that's what the dome meant. Mm-hmm. He knows. He knows deep down that his dad's not the good guy, but he's refusing to acknowledge that, I think, at this moment.
It's not an easy thing to do.
Of course not.
For your father to go against him, to actively participate in possibly killing him.
Especially when you see the whole town's kind of mesmerized by him.
Yeah, yeah. So, basically, they get into a fight.
Julia throws the egg
to
Angie. The kids run away with the egg.
They all manage to get away. Not Barbie. Barbie and Junior end up fighting, and this time Barbie ends up losing. And he basically...
He gets taken back into custody.
So Jim brings Linda to the studio. And we see that scene.
Yeah, shout out to Jack Bender. We get to see all of his beautiful artwork again in this scene.
Angie, meanwhile, wants to destroy...
Including, this is a new painting.
Okay.
That Jim is showing Linda. It wasn't the one of Junior standing on the hill with the pink stars, which is the one we've been focusing on before. This time he shows him literally a painting of the black egg. It's a painting of the black egg with the pink stars around it. And he says that before Pauline died, because we know she's not dead, she's chanted the pink stars are falling over and over and over again. And he thought she was crazy, but maybe she wasn't.
Perhaps not. So meanwhile, Angie wants to destroy the egg. Nori suggests asking the egg what to do. And so basically Julia ends up handing her the egg. She asks a question. And then we see an image of Nori's mom, once again played by Samantha Mathis.
Yeah, this is our final appearance of Samantha Mathis projecting Alice.
Right. And of course, this is not actually Alice. This is a kind of, it's a image that the dome is using to create. Or is it using to communicate, basically, is what I'm trying to say. So, Jim says it's like his wife knew this was all going to happen. Linda says that his family is important, and it means that he's important. And, he doesn't need the big head. He's already got enough of an ego. You don't need to, fan the flames there. But Linda gets the call about Barbie, and then the dome creature... I have the dome mom creature in my notes.
Well, my notes just say Alice in quotes.
Right. To explain that the dome wasn't meant to punish them, but to protect them.
Yeah, and specifically, this Alice vision is acknowledging that she is an us who is still learning how to speak with you.
Right.
We're acknowledging this is not a human life form. We're acknowledging we are dealing with something extraterrestrial.
Mm-hmm. And it does seem to indicate that it's not just one person.
Yeah, the word us
it's a collective.
is used.
Yeah. So yeah, she basically says that if you want the life back, you have to earn the life back. And Julia suggests that by earning the life back, is it by protecting the egg? And Alice ends up nodding at Julia's statement that if they don't end up protecting the egg and it gets into bad hands, that this will in fact be the end.
Meaning they will all die if they don't protect the egg. And remember that when we get to the end of the episode.
Right.
Because I have a problem with why Julia assumes what she's doing is protecting the egg.
And basically that's it for the Dome talking to them. Well,
and that's a wrap on Samantha Mathis. We never see her again in this series.
So Jim talks to Barbie about the egg, thinking it's the key to everything. And Jim ends up calling for Julia and says if she brings him the egg, they will reduce his sentence, and if not, he will pay the ultimate price. Once again, where's Linda during this? But,
yeah, we don't see her during this scene at all, I don't think.
Right. Jim drinks and is visited by his son. Junior tells him that they want to assassinate him. Not specifically, once again, saying who is trying to assassinate him. Junior asks them if they are right about who he's become. And Jim now has a messiah complex. I mean, at least it's worse now. He admits to having killed some people, but convinces Junior that this is their destiny, that anyone who died needed to die.
Yeah, he said he didn't kill anyone that didn't absolutely need to be taken. I think he believes this.
I'm sure he does.
He really thinks that he hasn't done anything wrong by murdering like 8 people.
Yeah, and so father and son seemingly embrace and reconnect, and now Junior is fully on Jim's side. The kids and Julia argue about what to do. Joe asks how...
And they've got the egg at the Sweetbriar. I think this is the very last time we see the Sweetbriar. I don't know that for positive, but I feel like that's the case. We never come back in this building again.
So yeah, basically they're saying, how do we protect the egg and save Barbie at the same time?
Right, because Jim said the only way to save Barbie's life is to bring him the egg.
Julia says they can't, and he basically sends the kids off to go find someplace.
Yeah, she's like, if I'm the monarch, it has to be my decision. I don't want you guys culpable for what happens next.
Right. So Julia drives somewhere with the egg.
And the town gathers at the gallows. This is where the entire town's just hanging out.
Right.
And yeah, this is where it gets kind of culty weird.
Yeah, so he tells the assembled crowd, which includes Linda, just sitting there staring at them, why Barbie needs to be executed. Linda, do you have anything to say here? Nothing? Okay, moving on. So you're just cool with this? That's fine.
Yeah, he says, okay, and we're sentencing Dale Barber to death. That was the trial, I guess. Jim's speech was the trial.
Okay. So Julia on the boat looks at the water with the egg in hand. The noose is being put around Barbie's neck.
By Junior.
Julia tosses it into the lake. There is a glowing pink in the water, then in the sky. Jim announces that means the Dome is looking on what they're doing with good favor.
Okay, so before we get to the last moment, the egg being thrown in the water. She thinks she's killing Barbie right now, right?
Okay.
Because she's like, well, I'm not handing the egg over, and I'm sorry, Barbie. She's holding his dog tags, and she's like, I'm sacrificing him, right? For the better good of the rest of us living. Why does she think throwing the egg in the water is going to protect it?
The only thing I can defend on that is, like, how is anybody going to know that the egg is there? I mean, like, presumably the egg is going to sink, right?
Okay, I mean, she's not giving it to Jim.
Right.
But how do you know that's going to protect it? How do you know you're not killing whatever's in the egg by drowning it?
All right, fair enough.
Or you're going to break it because it hits the bottom of the water. I don't feel like disappearing something into a lake is protecting it.
Fair enough. Okay.
But this moment, dropping it into the water is what releases it.
Right.
Like, this is you keep talking about in this series about how people, come to conclusions that they shouldn't have come to.
Yes.
That this is one of them. How does she know this is a good idea? How does she know this is helpful to save the egg?
It'd be one thing if there was, like, some kind of communication with the monarch as to what she's exactly supposed to do.
Right.
That leads her to this conclusion.
The only thing she was told is protect the egg. I don't feel like this is an instinctually way to protect something by dumping it in the water.
Right. Yeah. You have a solid point there, that's for sure. So, Jim announces that the dome glowing pink is a sign that the dome is looking at what they're doing
now,
with good favor.
The pink stars are not falling in lines, by the way. They're rising up in lines from the water towards the top of the dome.
Okay, so, all this pink stars nonsense is not true even?
Yeah, the pink stars are not falling in lines. They're rising in lines.
Okay.
Kind of the opposite.
All right. So,
although I think we get back to pink stars a little bit in season 2. When we talk about, like, what happened in the past.
Mm-hmm. All right, so the kids look up at the sky with awe. Junior tells... not Junior. Okay, so Jim says, Junior, do it now, which means pull the lever.
He realizes the crowd's about to wake up.
Right.
Because as the pink stars hit the top of the dome, the darkness is dissipating. It's turning into light.
Yes.
Meaning all the people, kind of similar to the riots in the rain situation, they're going to realize we're not dying because there's no sun.
Right.
And maybe they'll realize, oh God, you're about to kill somebody.
Right. Maybe.
With no reason.
Right.
So that's what he's like, do it now while nobody's paying attention. Also point out the fact that Jim's not willing to do this himself. He's a killer, but he's not willing to pull the lever. He's making his son do it.
Yes. That is interesting also. And that is where the episode ends.
Yeah, Junior reaches for the lever and credits. Now, in my mind, I thought we got a little further in this scene, in this episode, but no. It's as cliffhangery as possible.
Right, yeah.
The sky is brightening up. People are seemingly coming out of whatever... It almost feels like they are being possessed right now, like season 3 level.
Yeah.
But that's not what they're presenting is happening.
No.
It's just the grief of, the world's ending.
Right.
Yeah, I feel like something was lost in that.
Basically, there was a lot of story they were trying to cover.
Sure.
And they were rushing it.
Yeah.
And, that was a problem with the last couple of episodes, is the fact that they were taking these leaps, the jumping to conclusion thing, because they were trying to get the things quickly, because they had basically bitten off more than they can chew. But then when we go into season 2, we've kind of completely abandoned a lot of the story that we were setting up in season 1. So, I don't know.
Exactly.
They never really had a great plan for this series, is what it comes down to.
And also, we still don't know the answer to this, but somewhere along the line, they changed direction, right? They were only going to have one season. Then they were like, well, let's make a second season. So they had to take what was originally conceived as a condensed story and expand it a little.
Right.
We don't know what changed during that jump.
Which is why we end up with, like, filler nonsense with the, Natalie Z coming in as Maxine to start a fight club and all that
Maybe.
stuff.
I mean, we don't really know
right.
what was the original plan and what changed.
Yeah.
And how did we end up with what we ended up with, which is so far from the novel.
Right, yeah.
We abandoned the novel at this point.
Mm-hmm. Even at the end of season 1, basically.
I mean, the whole egg. The egg does not exist in the novels.
Right.
Melanie Cross does not exist in the novels.
Right. Yeah.
And that's like what we're doing, That's the new story.
It's not a big mystery as to why Stephen King now shits on this series. Basically, he does not talk about the series with any kind of affection whatsoever,
right,
as far as adaptations go. Now, he was defending it back in the day, but I think time and distance has basically made him go, no, that was not a very good adaptation at all.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't even really play with Stephen King's themes that much. In the first season we do a little bit, but we could have done more, and we definitely don't as the series progresses. We just descend into this B-level sci-fi nonsense.
Right. All right, I have a lot of people to shout out.
All right,
let's start with our uncredited listings for this episode. This episode only, we have townsperson played by Alan Boel. He was in Captain America: Brave New World, Fly Me to the Moon. Those are both current movies.
Yes.
He's in an episode of Cobra Kai.
Oh, yeah, okay.
We have a resident in John Miracle. He was in 2 episodes of Mr. Mercedes and the 2015 Goosebumps movie. Returning uncredited listings that we've already talked about. We have Rochelle Eichhoff, who plays Nurse Chris. This time she's just listed as town person, so she's not working at the clinic today.
Okay.
We have the Hodges family returning that we met last week. Joseph Milton Hodges Jr. and Sr. and Nancy Hodges. We have Amy Jo Jackson, Carlos St. James, Carolyn Kahn, Joe Montani, James Nass, David Pasaqua, Clam Sepulveda, and William Fresca, and they're all going to return again in the following seasons.
Mm-hmm.
The following people, this is their final appearance. We've met them before, but this is the last time we're going to see Will Smith, not that Will Smith. So
last time you're going to be
been
saying
talking
that.
about
Yep.
you all season by Will Smith, David Alexander Coley, Randy Grazio, Megan Jones, Damian McGowan, and Teresa McGowan. This was the final uncredited appearance for all of them. Now, as far as our actual credited cast, again, this was the final appearance of Samantha Mathis as Alice. But I've been keeping all the names for the season of characters who we know weren't going to come back. They're going to get deleted from my template finally as we move into season 2. We're going to have a new template for season 2 because we got to make room for all the new people that suddenly are going to appear in this town for no reason of why we didn't meet them already.
Some of them were okay, some of them not so much.
All right, so first, here's all the people that we met and they died this season who will not appear again. We had Freddie Denton, played by Joe Knezovic.
He died early.
Paul Randolph, played by Kevin Sizemore. Reverend Lester Coggins, played by Ned Bellamy. Rose Twitchell, played by Beth Broderick. Clint Dundee, played by Jarrett Sears. Waylon Dundee, played by Linz Edward. Ollie Dinsmore, played by Leon Rippey. Sheriff Duke Perkins, played by Jeff Fahey. Maxine Seagrave, played by Natalie Z. And Agatha Seagrave, played by Mayor Winningham. Also dead is Peter Shumway, but we're going to see him again.
Oh, okay.
As well as Dodie, we're going to see her again. So they're dead, but they do come back still because, this series can do that.
Interesting. We're going to see Peter Shumway again.
Yeah, I'm sure it's a flashback. Or
maybe that means that we're not entirely done with the whole Barbie killed.
We don't see him until 212, so it's going to be a while.
Okay.
It's a late season thing. And then shout outs to these people who are not dead, but we will never see them again. And that's Rusty, played by Josh Carter. I guess that makes sense that we don't get back to him.
He doesn't matter.
Considering where we start season 2.
Right, yeah.
If that didn't happen, it'd be weird that we never reference back to Rusty. Like when we do get out of the dome.
Yeah.
But it makes sense that we don't see him again because all of his people are gone. So he's out of here. Carter, played by Andrew Vogel.
That's the one that irritates me the most.
He's gone. Right. He's supposed to be part of the police, but he's gone. We never see him again.
I'll talk about that when we do episode 1 of season 2.
Dre Johnson, who is played by Ray Stoney. We met him like 3 times. We don't see him again. And Nurse Adams, Crystal Martinez, who had many episodes this season, but we'll never see her again either. I don't know. Do we even see the clinic again? I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll have to see when we start.
Because she's gone.
Yeah.
Bye-bye, nurse. We have no doctors or nurses now, apparently. She quit, I guess.
Yes.
She's out of it. All of those people I just mentioned, great seeing you in this season.
Absolutely.
And that's a wrap on all of them. We will not see any of those people again in season 2.
Right.
But we're going to bring in like 3 brand new people that we never heard of before that are going to be main cast members in a town that's isolated in a bubble.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Seems legit to me.
It's perfectly normal that we never met these super important characters that are suddenly embedded in every little bit of town politics that exists.
Right.
They were just sleepy the last 2 weeks.
Like you said, some of those characters are okay that we didn't see them, but there are some characters...
I'm okay with the uncle.
Yes.
I'm forgetting his name.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that because they portray him as a recluse living in the woods.
Yes.
Cool that he hid for 2 weeks.
Right, yeah.
And I'm kind of even okay with the barber.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't...
Because he's kind of not as... He becomes important in the season 2 story, but I'm not convinced that he needed to be involved in the politics so far.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about, and yeah, I think I'm okay with that one, too.
But the teacher...
Yes.
100%. She's in every freaking scene. She's at perfect odds with Jim. She's right there as like an important person. The kids are leaning on her like
Like she's been there the whole
Like
time.
she's like, they should have been bouncing every word off of her, like she's a god. But she never existed until season 2.
Yes, that one is the worst one, the biggest problem.
And along with the teacher is the school itself, which apparently now exists at the very center of the dome, which we very specifically pointed out earlier in the season when we found the mini dome. That was the center of the dome in the woods next to an empty field.
Right.
Yeah, so I think that these aliens not only built a dome, but they changed the entire reality. They Mandela affected this town between seasons 1 and 2 to change the entire demographics of the town and everyone's memories of it.
Interesting. Well, that would make for a very interesting plot. Maybe you should be writing for this show. Yeah, so that's the end of season 1, finally.
Again?
I don't want to ever talk about this season again. I don't even know if I'm going to watch it again. But, yeah.
Let's remember that by the time we get to season 3.
Right.
And then you can say, geez, I missed season 1.
It's only because I've had to watch it, like, so many times. and yeah, and we've been talking about this season for, like, 2 years now.
We have. Yes.
But I'm looking forward. We're going to, take a couple weeks break. We got some new stuff coming back and some other stuff that we want to do. But we will, within short order, start talking about season 2.
Yes, we're going to get to it definitely sooner than later. This will not be a hiatus.
Right.
Just a very short break between seasons.
Yep. I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to, trashing the episodes as we go along.
Yeah. I mean, we've already said, I think, all the main things.
Yeah.
And like I said, it's been a while since I've watched seasons 2 and 3.
Well, I will say that, yes, we're going to spend quite a bit of time shitting on these episodes that are coming up. But as we go along, there are still things of merit that happen within
there
episodes.
are. Yeah, it's still... I feel like this show is still watchable. I feel like... It never becomes grudgingly to the point where you're like, I cannot sit through this. Like, some shows do.
Even in season 3, which is completely terrible, there are still things worth watching within the show.
There are.
And there are some effective moments that are like, wow, that's really powerful. But
as much as we complain about this series, it is watchable. We are spending our free time sitting here talking about it.
Yes.
Even though we don't have a big audience for this. So... It must be watchable that we're dedicating our time to it.
Right.
And also, I still, after the end of the day, wish we got a season 4. Because we're left at the end of season 3 with some big cliffhangers that don't get concluded.
Yeah.
And I hate that. I hate that it doesn't have a proper ending.
Right.
And I'm still angry that they didn't wrap it up. Even though it was garbage.
All right. We'd like to hear from you. What you think of this episode? What you think of this podcast? Stacie, you reached out.
I can reach on Twitter, X, Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky at TVN Coupon Talk.
If you like this video and want to support the channel, the number of ways to do so, you can follow me on Twitter at Core Productions. You can join the Core Productions Facebook page. You can buy something from the Core Productions store on Zazzle, which has a ton of new products. Some are related to things that Jack Bender has been involved with, specifically our From TV show. And you can also buy me a coffee. You can join the Corn Productions membership for 99 cents a month, starting at. And, of course, you can like, share, and comment on this video, as well as subscribe to the channel. This is Dave and Stacie from Corn Productions, signing off.